Have you ever looked at a VTuber's current design or outfit and thought about how different they look now from when they started? Entire aesthetics can change, or just the vibe of their character design can just feel a bit different. This kind of thing is interesting to me because VTubing as a medium is in its infancy. There's so much being defined and discovered. What matters and what doesn't changes from year to year. Does your character concept fit your lore? Does the lore even matter? Do you even need a character concept? As time goes on, the distinction of this is an anime character you're basically playing and selling to viewers, and you're effectively your own personality and your model is just how you present yourself, has only gotten more apparent. With that, more and more of a talent's own personality can bleed through and shift the interests of their design over time. All that said, how does one's initial design come to be? What interests and mindsets go into the creation of how someone first decides to present themselves to the world? To anecdotally answer these questions and to celebrate my first year of VTubing, let me tell you all that went into creating the design of CallingGestalt. The most important point to start with is that I pretty much had no online presence or tried to even think about a persona I was putting on. I'm already a somewhat private person, and the thought of annoying other people by making unfunny or dumb comments would have killed me. Eventually, in early 2022, I started making little edits, memes, and began a year-long video essay project about a little show called Darling in the Franxx. Don't try and look up that video. I already have it private on account of it being complete ass. However, when I was initially planning how I was going to go about making that video, I made this MS Paint edit of Mr. Bone of Mr. Bone's Wild Ride, with 02's hair and horns drawn on top. I made this at just the thought that I was about to drag myself into critical analysis, recording my own voice for others to listen to, long-form video editing, because I was so fascinated by this random show that was years old at that point. And if it wasn't obvious, I'm still stuck on that ride and don't even want to leave. A bit later, I was thinking about how I might want to put some actual effort into my profile pic. I know that it isn't too big a deal now, but at the time I was pretty concerned about how people would perceive me. As such, I wanted something original that wasn't just some random image. Going off the concept of mixing 02 and a skeleton, I drew over a frame of 02 when she was in her oomphy era, threw in a realistic image of a skeleton. The horns were also made greens as I liked the contrast of it against the pink hair, and so that it felt a bit more distinct than just being 02. Wow. Worrying about how people perceive me and choosing to use something based on a girl. Hope this doesn't reflect anything about my underlying person. I'd also note that the scratchiness and gradients came from me trying to replicate the style of Moon Remix RPG Adventure. I'd recently played at the time on the recommendation of my friend and missing YouTuber, Zenbuster. Months later, some friends and I were joking about the VTuber Neurosama's early way of speaking.
For a second by the smell of my own body odor. I really hope I don't smell too bad because I haven't had a shower in like 2 days now.
With my sort of online presence, I made a joke video reading a copy pasta from her on a stream I was doing. That's right, the original full design of my character came from a joke video of me talking about being stinky and smelly. Until it was added below the neck, there's a segment of black material near the bottom of the picture in the profile pic I made. Originally, that was the cloak 02 was wearing as she trekked through the frozen forest. However, since this was my character and I could decide what she was wearing, I wanted to take it in another direction. While skeletons wearing normal clothes is a thing, I'd even point to the fiends of Shin Megami Tensei for possible inspiration. I wanted to play more into the mix of industrial/grunge and fantasy. For as much as she was meant to be a magical creature, I felt like contrasting that against a sense of grounding. If she was a skeleton, she probably wouldn't be allowed to walk around with all her bones exposed, nor would I want to default to just throwing clothes on her. I had also watched Gurren Lagann and played Signalis at the time, so the idea of characters tightly dressed in all black below the neck was something I was thinking about. I'd also watched Breaking Bad and realized that despite how popular and impactful the show was, hazardous material suits weren't something I'd ever really seen a character wear. With that, I put her in a black hazmat suit to create this dissonance between her body and her skeleton face, hot pink hair, and green horns. I even have a lore reason behind it of the fact that she did have some form of musculature and organs, so she needed to wear something that would safely and securely cover most of her body. If I could make a self-indulgent detour in an already self-indulgent video, I really like the contrast of when beautiful characters are given unflattering but grounded details. A prime example of this would be Morrigan from Darkstalkers having eye bags. It's a small detail that could so easily be ignored or forgotten, but adds to her in not just falling into the perfectly attractive succubus type, and informs some sort of daily life and vulnerability you don't see with fictional characters. Ultimately, characters are an abstraction that people recognize and understand to be like people. In that process, certain details that don't add to a character's beauty aren't always accounted for in creating them. So, going out of your way to add back everyday details or actions or ways of speaking that don't contribute to some character archetype or standard of attractiveness, I'll see it as profoundly beautiful in its own way. I would hope this stage acts as an example of how your design doesn't need to be based on either basic two-word character concepts or needing to do market research on what it would be considered original. You totally can throw together different design elements you might like and result in something compelling. There are issues to consider, like clashing or pairing your personality with your design, how designs are basically the basis of your branding, and just how much of your actual model will be an important part of a given stream. But I'd honestly say if you're watching videos about how to design a VTuber, you probably shouldn't worry yourself about this stuff. Just get something together and you can change and add to it over time. This initial design lasted for like a week, as I then made art similar to my first profile pic, but with an eye catch of Nia from Gurren Lagann. Part of the idea being, 1, I like curly hair and want to use it, and 2, it gave me an idea around what she might look like with skin. Well, it kinda defeats the point by throwing skin onto a character whose whole deal centers around them being a skeleton. I wanted to think about the lore she had around her to get to this point. This led to me writing a whole outline of where her horns came from, why she was a skeleton, and why despite that she retains her tits and ass. I scrapped about half of it when I ended up changing a lot of the distinct features tied to this lore. I still want to use what I cooked up later on, but given that I'm squatting in Google servers, I don't exactly have the budget to commission a lore video at this point. Moving on from cooking up background details, a few months passed, and I now felt comfortable enough to actually take a crack at streaming as a VTuber. But because I was just starting out and had a years-old laptop, I decided to start off with a PNG tuber model. Thinking about how I would exist in the VTuber space, I wanted to make some changes to my design that I felt would make me stand out a bit more. Most of the major changes I made stemmed from one point: the horns. To be frank, I felt that horns were an overplayed VTuber element. Off the top of your head, how many VTubers can you name that are some kind of demon, devil, succubus, or otherwise hellish creature that has horns as some element of their design? I mean no ill will with this question, plenty of VTubers have designs that overall feel different from one another. It's just that this design detail didn't really jive with me at the time and what kind of vibe and interest I wanted to associate with. That interest being bunnies. Yes, early 2024, Deco27 released their song Rabbit Hole, and it awakened a love for bunnies within me, among other things. I actually put together a bunny suit cosplay inspired by it that later got me a girlfriend. Also, the actual animal is pretty cool too. Rabbits aren't actually that expressive, but that adds to their cuteness as they flop over and become pounds of fluff. So I wanted to integrate bunny ears into my design to replace the horns as the headpiece. Similarly to the whole thing with the horns, I didn't want to go with the basic upwards positioned rabbit ears as I felt it was overly common. Instead, the ears hang down like proper lop rabbit ears since I felt that'd be more in line with the improper look I was going for. At the same time, this change removed the contrast I had for the pink hair. I wouldn't say you need a ton of different colors for your design, but limiting how many you have does get in the way when you're getting into designing branding. Alongside that, since I was just going to be a PNG tuber starting out, I didn't exactly like the idea of the audience staring into my empty eye sockets when I was talking. To solve a lot of issues, I shifted the green horns into my uranium class glasses. If you're wondering why I specifically went with uranium glass or about the radiation symbol I also added onto my back, that's just a part of the updated lore I'm not telling. Now, with all these changes made, you can see the first formation of my current character design. Yeah, I haven't gone to any art classes or really drawn in years. Fret not if you are in my same position. Having at least something as a proper reference for what you want in a design or illustration does wonders for any artist you're working with. With that though, you should probably get a design sheet of your character made before you go and commission artists for anything other than just a basic model. It'd be really silly if you commissioned an artist and all they had to go off of for what the character you're paying them to draw was your scribbles. I didn't do that. I totally didn't wait almost a whole year into VTubing to actually get the artist who made my model to make a design sheet. It did work in my favor to wait though. Because I was doing this all by myself, not really worrying or watching for any guidelines, I did put something pretty egregious in the initial design. That being the exposed neck muscles you see between the suit's collar and the head. Eventually, I realized it was probably a bit off-putting to see with that, and it would limit what I could really do with the design if she had no skin. So, I went and had a gray, decaying skin thrown on top to achieve the same sort of macabre effect without immediately putting grow in front of people. And that's where I'm sitting now, from a thrown together edit to the model I've been using for over a year. That said, while I'm quite happy with how things eventually turned out, that doesn't change the fact that I do want to change a bit more. Which is most likely why VTubers will get new outfits and entire new models every now and then. The aesthetics they might have liked a year or so back might not reflect what they want to do now. At the same time, it could also just be the refinement of the concepts they already had going on before with the small design tweaks and a higher quality model overall. Now, I do think it's important that before you get lofty ideas about what you would want for your VTuber setup, I highly suggest you actually stream. The amount of stories of modelers and riggers having a client chicken out before they even debut, or they do a few streams and find out they don't actually like streaming that much is staggering. You might want a cheap PNG tuber model, you might want to use a stock customizable model, or you might want to not worry about even that when testing the waters. Just test those waters at all before jumping into the deep end. I have an interest in updating my design and getting a new model because I've been streaming for over a year. I know I have an interest in making videos and streaming, so I'm willing to make that investment. I even made this video in part because I wanted to show that you can come from basically nothing and still be a VTuber in some fashion. I use a ton of free programs like Slime Chat and Video Mini. My model costs like $50. A ton of my layout was just made using stock images and screenshots I edited to make my own. If you're willing to be like me and just get started at the base level, who knows where you'll end up. If you end up finding that you don't enjoy VTubing, you can rest easy knowing that you didn't blow a ton of cash trying it out. If you find out you really do enjoy VTubing, you could find a career to grind towards. Who knows, you might even be one of those lucky individuals who gets to release a statement about your time at a future defunct VTuber agency.